Previous session, we learned about what are the roles and permissions. Okay. In this session, we are going to see how the permissions or privileges are going to work for the vCenter server. We created a couple of folders. If not created, we'll create a couple of folders and move the one of the VM to the respective folder and see what are the permissions we are going to get on the respective object. Let's create different objects on this particular server. Open vCenter server and go to VM and templates. What are the folders are available? Then let's see. Expand the vCenter server.
Actually, we have created those folders in the new.
No problem. We can create here. We'll create a here and we'll go work on the permissions. We'll add permissions. Expand the window. Go to VM and templates option. They create folders production, Linux and Windows. Create a folders. Yes. Why we are creating a folders to restrict the privileges, to restrict a particular privileges to one particular user. Generally in an enterprise environment, there are different administrators like Windows administrator or respective application server administrators. So there are multiple VMs will be there. There are number of VMs will be there. So they should not get access to all the VMs which are not belongs to them. So in that scenario, what we are going to do is we are going to create a permission with the respect to object. So for example, you can create a number of objects, number of folders to create, to restrict the respective user to only that particular folder. Okay. See, as a VMware administrator, we should have a complete access to the entire environment. So who are working on VMware administrator, they are going to get a default administrator access. If that VMware administrator is a L1 guy or L2 support person, so what they are going to do is they are restrict the permission to only virtual machines object. We can do whatever the way you want to restrict the privileges. We can do that. Let's see what are these folders we created. We created 3 folders: Linux, Windows, and production. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move one of the VM to respective folder. Say what I can do is I can move DB server to Linux folder. Just drag and drop that particular DB server to respect to Linux folder. Yes, drag and drop. That's it. So that particular DB server will move to respect to an entity.
No, it is not happening.
Go to virtual machines tab. Select vCenter. Select vCenter. Select vCenter. Yeah. Now do it. Select DB server and drag and drop. Why it is not happening? The thing is that you created a folder where we created a folder under vCenter server. You're supposed to create a folder under data center. Create a folders, remove that folders and create a folders under data center. Where the VMs are available? The VMs are available under data center.
Yes.
Okay. So we need to create where the VMs are available. According to that, we need to segregate the folders. See, the VMs are available under data center. But what we created a folders under vCenter server. So remove that. We can really just Linux one. It is up to you. Only thing, basic thing, what you need to understand is we can restrict for each object level the permission. I'm going to show you how to restrict the particular object. What are the options if that particular user able to log in? What he can see the permissions, how he is going to access the environment. Okay. Go to permission tab and vCenter server. What are the users we added? We can see that permissions. What we are going to do, go to vCenter server, select vCenter server, and see permissions. What are the existing permissions are available? We'll see. Okay, we added permission Kasa as a read-only. Okay, Srinu as an administrator. First, what we are going to do is currently we log in as an administrator. Where to see who is the current session, who logged into this session, which user log into the session. How can we see? At the corner, last corner, right hand side to bottom corner, you can see who logged into this environment. If you want to see the sessions, click on home, sessions is there. Under administration, sessions are there. Click on sessions. Yes. See, what is this particular session? If you connect to this session, there is an option, session status. This session in the sense you are the session, whatever the session you logged in, that is the session belongs to that particular user. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'll keep this session as it is. I'm going to open, I provided a permission and vCenter server. One is Srinu for administrator, Kasa for read only. Let's see if I log in with the Kasa, what are the actions I'm able to perform. If log in with the Srinu, what are the actions I'm going to perform. Let's keep the session is like this and try to open with the Kasa and one more session with Srinu. Give a domain/Kasa. Meanwhile, connect the session with Srinu also. See what is the privileges it is coming up. What we need to do is, if I log in with Srinu, what I'm getting, if I log in with Kasa, I provided permission for Kasa read-only access. Okay, go to previous session. Yes, open that. Where we are in, I'm in sessions and vSphere server. As a read-only access, I can see the environment, that's it. I cannot see sessions and administrator tab. What is where I need to move to host and clusters, go to host and clusters inventory. This, whatever the user, I cannot see sessions also. I can see only inventory objects. I cannot perform any action and administrator. Only I can see what are the VMs, what are the ESXi hosts, just read-only access. Click on host and clusters. As this permission has only read-only access, I can just view the objects, either VMN templates or ESXi host. If I go to options, I can just view. I cannot go to configuration. I cannot change anything. There is no option to edit settings also. Right click on the VM. All options will be grayed out. I cannot perform any action. Click on any action, edit settings. You are in Srinu, not Kasa. Kasa is only read only. Srinu is administrator. This is administrator. What? How to know? This is administrator Srinu who logged in this session. At the corner you can see domain / Srinu. Another session Kasa. Open that Kasa session. Yes, this is the backside. One more session. Yes, this is the one. Move to host and clusters view. This is only view. Just right click and see what are the options you are going to get. See, all options will be grayed out. Can I create event snapshot? Can I power on, power off? Go to power tab. All will be grayed out in the back because it is only just read-only access. Similar way, I can restrict each object wherever I need. For example, I need only one ESX need to provide as an administrator. I can provide permission for administrator for the respective ESXi host. Okay, like that I can restrict the permissions whatever the way you want with the default roles available. If the default roles is fine, that is fine. If not, you can create a own rule what permission you can restrict. Okay, if you are not sure what is this, just open the browser. Open the browser.
This one?
Yeah, browser. kb.vmware.com. kb.vmware.com. Yeah, first link. This is a knowledge base by VMware vendor. If you have any issue or any kind of troubleshooting, just refer to this kb.vmware.com. Whatever the action you are not sure how to perform and all those things, just search here. For each vCenter version, you will find the KB articles here. You can search, and according to search information, you will get complete information of this KB article. For example, permissions, how to assign a permissions, how to create a role. You can search in this database and you can get the respective article. Okay. If you go to internet and search for what are the action you are looking for, there are plenty of videos are available. You need to explore the knowledge, how to provide a permission, how to restrict the permission. Okay. This is a way to work on permissions. Now coming back to the main session, in this session, we are going to cover cluster features. Before covering cluster features, what are the things are required to work on cluster? Okay, cluster in the sense why we need a cluster. The first thing is why we need a cluster. Select a production. We know that we created a cluster. Select a cluster. What is that cluster? It is a group of ESXi hosts. It is a group of ESXi hosts. What is a group of ESXi hosts? What is the purpose? To make sure the high availability in the sense, for example, whatever the VMs, whatever the virtual machines are running and respect to ESXi host, if that ESXi host is down with some hardware issue, if it is ESXi host down for certain reason, whatever the virtual machines, whatever the servers are running on the respective ESXi host will move to another ESXi host within a cluster. It is an online activity and how it is going to work and what are the things it is going to happen and the background we are going to see. To make use of the cluster feature, we created a cluster, but we haven't enabled any settings on the cluster. We are going to see the cluster features, what are the cluster features are available. Okay. One thing we need to maintain a high availability. High availability in the sense, even any issue with the hardware of the respective ESXi host. Okay, that what are the VMs are running on the respective ESXi host. They should migrate to another ESXi host within a cluster to provide a high availability. Because if the ESXi host is down for some reason, okay, what will happen? What are the hosted VMs are there on the ESXi host? All VMs will go down. To avoid that single point of failure, we are going to configure high availability. How to configure high availability? That is the first thing. Second thing is that a group of clusters are available, group of ESXi hosts are available, and we can maintain a load balance. Load balance in the sense, we know the resources. What are the resources? CPU, memory, storage, and the resources. These resources are using some high usages on one ESXi host. So it is going to maintain a kind of load balancing. Once it reaches 80% of utilization or 90% of utilization, what are the VMs are hosted on that particular ESXi host should able to migrate to another ESXi host without downtime. How to achieve that load balancing? What is the HA is going to do? What is the load balancing we can configure on this cluster? Now, this cluster configuration, if you go to select a cluster, right click on the cluster, go to edit settings. You are in yes, you should be an administrator to maintain this cluster features. Okay, right click on the production cluster. The first principle, we should have an access. Click on edit settings on the cluster. These are the cluster features. What are the cluster features? There are HA, vSphere HA, vSphere high availability. The second one is turn on vSphere DRS. What is DRS? You can understand by going through this basic description of this particular feature, what it is going to do. vSphere HA detects failure of hardware and then it migrates the VMs from this particular host to other ESXi host. There will be a slight downtime available if it is HA failure. For example, hardware issues happen on one ESXi host. What are the VMs are running on that ESXi host? It is going to restart. It is not high availability. It is not going online activity. It is going to move power down that respective VM, and within a fraction of seconds, within a fraction of minutes, it is going to move to another ESXi host and power on. Here, what we are going to achieve by enabling HA feature, we are going to minimize the downtime. For example, if a physical server is there, one server is running. If that hardware issue, the server is down. For example, in out of this ESXi host, this cluster feature is not enabled, HA feature is not enabled. ESXi host down due to some hardware failure. There are 50 VMs hosted on this particular ESXi host. What will happen? If due to that hardware, all 50 VMs will go down. There will be downtime. How to reduce the downtime? How to make the downtime very less for each server? There are 50 servers. Anything can happen in a hardware at any moment, the server can down. But what we need to make sure, we need to maintain a sufficient redundancy. Redundancy, we know what is redundancy, what is high availability. Okay, what we are doing here, application. What is this application here? Application on the ESXi host. My application is virtual hardware, virtual server. What is the operating system is running on the virtual server? Keep it aside. My application for ESXi host is a virtual machine. Now I need to make sure that virtual machine available online. That is high availability. What is high availability? High availability is nothing but it is going to fail over the resource, fail over the application from one physical system to another physical system. Due to that, it is going to power down and is going to restart another ESXi host. That is HA feature, high availability feature. Okay, redundancy is a different topic. Redundancy comes in if it is a two physical hard disk. We use RAID controller. There are two physical hard disks. We configure RAID 1. If one hard disk fails, we are not going to notice any down or anything. At the background, it is going to fail over. It is going to run from the working disk. That is redundancy. Okay, failover, redundancy, and high availability. In high availability, there is a less downtime, whereas in redundancy, there will end user, end application, and purpose of the respective purpose is not going to get any issue while moving to another this. That is redundancy and high availability. You need to understand what is the difference between redundancy and high availability. In a high availability, whatever the application, whatever the resource, it is going to fail over. There will be a slight downtime to move from one server to another server. Okay, you can consider Windows cluster server or any kind of cluster you can consider. If the application downtime, what is the downtime application? There is no 100% uptime available in HF in failure concept. 100% available, there is no possibility. Only in redundancy, there is a possibility of 100% availability. Okay, you can, if you want to understand, you can go to deep understanding what is redundancy, what is failover. Failover concept comes in HA. Okay, in failover, during the failover, there will be downtime, but as part of the cluster configuration, we are going to reduce that failover, reduce the downtime window or from the hours to minutes or seconds, depends upon cluster configuration. Okay, that is we come back to this cluster feature, come back to this VMware vSphere. Under VMware vSphere, what is the cluster features? There are two cluster features. One is vSphere HA, vSphere high availability. What is it is going to do? It is going to fail over. If any hardware failure on one of the ESXi host, the VMs, it will fail over from another that particular ESXi host to another ESXi host as per HA configuration. Okay, that is high availability. What is the DRS? Distributed resource schedule or a dynamic resource schedule. Go to Google and understand what is DRS. Okay, here it is there. vSphere DRS. What it is going to do? Manage host aggregated pool of resources. Aggregated pool of resources in the sense cluster, there are resources and it is going to use by respective virtual machines. If one ESXi host having an issue of high utilization of CPU or memory, then what it is going to do? It is going to manage the load balancing of the resources according to the configuration of DRS. Okay. What is the DRS? You can Google it and understand. Someone says the dynamic, someone says that distributed resource scheduler. I am going to say that it is a technical term. Whatever the VMware, go to open the browser and DRS, just type DRS. What are the topic we are going to learn? You need to cross check each and every time what is the DRS. Okay. Not in under VMware KB article, go back, Google and understand DRS. The different DRS in cricket also DRS is there. DRS VMware. DRS VMware. Yes. The center. See, distributed resources scheduler, distributed, not a dynamic. Whatever the topic we are going to learn, you should be able to understand clear definition, because if you are going to attend the interview, okay, you should understand what the topic we are going to learn. Okay, so you need to cross check. Okay, simply you should not follow blindly what are the topic you are going to learn. If you are going to search internet for that particular topic, you are going to get a different knowledge, different terminologies in technical world. What are the terminologies they are going to use? Because in interviews or while presenting the things in front of interviewer, you have to showcase and you have to talk about technical things. You should not talk about layman technology. Okay, what I'm going to explain here, I'm going to use some terminology for the understanding purpose. You should not use that terminology in front of while presenting. Okay? Try to understand. Now come back to the topic. So these are the two cluster features. There are plenty of options are available for each option. What are the options are available under vSphere HA, and what are the options are available under vSphere DRS? We are going to configure. Before we going for configure, what are the requirements to perform to configure this cluster setting? Okay. We understood what is the vSphere HA and we understood what is vSphere DRS. DRS is nothing but a kind of load balancing. During the load balancing, there is no downtime. It is going to perform online migration from one ESXi host to another ESXi host. There won't be any downtime. How it is going to work, what technology it is going to use, we are going to understand that. Before proceeding further, these are the cluster features, okay? What is the cluster features? HA and DRS. HA is nothing but high availability. When it is going to come into picture, if any hardware failure and respect to ESXi host, that HA comes in picture. If any load balancing concept comes in, the DRS is going to come into picture. Okay, that is a main basic terminology. Now, we need to understand to configure these two features, what are the basic requirements? What are the fulfillment of requirements to configure these two features? Okay, let's close this and understand few more requirements. This cluster and the configuration of HA and DRS may take 3 to 4 classes. Okay, don't worry about that. Just try to understand each topic, what is a dependency. Okay, now close this. Now we know that select ESXi host, select ESXi host, individual ESXi host, go to virtual machines. See, there are a couple of virtual machines are available. Okay, what is this virtual machines are going to work? For example, power of VMs, keep it aside, that is fine. There are one virtual machine, that is one server is an up and running state. Okay, one server is up and running state. Okay, now where this server is located is it is located on this ESXi host, the first thing. The second thing is that what are the resources? For example, this server is running in the sense we talk about mainly 5 components. What are the 5 components? The motherboard, CPU, memory, storage, and network, right? Out of these 5 components, 4 components are related to ESXi host and one component that is storage where the files are stored. Okay. For example, this ESXi host is down. What will happen? Where this particular VM is running on this particular data store, on this local data store. To make high availability, what I need to make sure first, I need to make sure is the resources can be moved from one this ESXi host to another ESX. For example, this ESXi host has a hardware issue. Now this VM need to run on another ESXi host. I can move virtual machine motherboard. The motherboard is available on another ESXi host. That is fine. Then CPU. CPU is available on another ESXi host. That is fine. I can move. Next, memory. Memory, what are the memory is providing from this ESXi host? I can provide same memory by another ESXi host. That is fine. Network, what are the network it is able to communicate to outside? The same network is available on another ESXi host. So that is not an issue. So out of 5 resources, 4 resources are fine. I can move this ESXi host to another. How about the data store? How about a VMDK file, VMX file, where those files are residing on a local storage? On a local storage. If the ESXi host is down, I'm not able to perform any action. Can I move the data from this ESXi host to another ESXi host? I cannot move the data. To move the data, the ESXi should be online. Or else, what another way option, this particular storage should be there on a central storage or shared storage, so that I can move that particular data that data also from one particular ESXi host to another ESXi host. Only thing is that the mapping, okay, if it is the particular files, VM is running on one ESXi host is nothing but the files are stored on the respective ESXi host. Where these files are stored, where these files go to configuration, storage, go to storage. Just a moment. Okay. Where the storage, what type of storage is this storage is a local storage. Where the VMs are running on local storage. If this particular ESXi host is down, it is a single point of failure for my virtual machine, because virtual machine is nothing but a set of files. Those set of files are running from local storage, local data storage. Okay, if the local data store is not accessible, I cannot move the file, right? So what we need to make sure, first the component is the storage. We need to make sure the centralized storage, shared storage. If I want to move this VM from one ESXi host to another ESXi host, both ESXi hosts should able to see the data store, should able to see the storage, so that I can redirect the mapping from one ESXi host to another ESXi. That's it. So for any cluster, any Windows cluster or any cluster, to move from why we are creating cluster, that make availability of that particular resource high availability, even failure of respective server hardware. Now, if the hardware is failed, I need to make sure the storage should be available in a shared location, which can be accessible by both servers. Then only I can move the resources. What is a cluster basic requirement? Shared storage. Shared storage, and second thing is that the network should be available, the same network should be available from this ESXi host and another ESXi host as well. Remaining resources, motherboard, CPU, memory, these three resources are available on the same ESXi host, another ESXi host also. What we are going to do in a cluster, we are going to mapping. There is a virtualization where there is a mapping is going to happen, where from where the resource is getting. If the one ESXi host is down, I'm going to get the remapping done will be there at the virtualization layer, and it is going to provide the resources, motherboard, CPU, memory from another ESXi host. Resources, no issue. Now the disk, the storage and network, because virtual machine high availability in the sense HA feature to work on the sense the network should be available. I need to send the packet from this ESXi host, as well as if this ESXi host is not working, I should able to send communication from other ESXi host. That in the sense network should be available on both ESXi host. At the same time, storage, the fifth component, the storage, the wherever we are going to copy the virtual machine, wherever we are going to place the virtual machine files, that files should not be on a local storage. That files should be on a shared storage. Shared storage should be accessible by both ESXi hosts. What are the ESXi hosts? What are the group of hosts we are going to create a cluster? All ESXi hosts, if you are able to see the storage, the same storage. So simple remap. One ESXi host is not accessible. The virtualization can disconnect that and remap to another ESXi host, so that the virtual machine can run up and run without any issue. Okay, this is the storage requirement. What is the requirement for configuring cluster? Shared storage required, and network should be accessible from the all the ESXi hosts within a cluster. Then only we can configure this particular cluster features. HA, hardware failure. In a hardware failure, all the mappings will be removed from the problematic server, problematic ESXi host, and map all the pointers to working ESXi host. That is going to happen in HA. A fraction of second or a fraction of minutes, the downtime will be there. It is going to remove that and it is going to power on another ESXi host by remapping all the resources. All the resources means these 5 resources of the virtual machine. What is happening in DRS? In DRS, it is an online activity. It is going to perform the virtualization layer. It is a kind of load balancing. The load balancing in the sense the topic is going to come into picture DRS. It is going to come if it is a resource is high on the TSXi host. It will check that DRS. It is going to check in the cluster who is having less utilization. Then it is going to call. It is going to take a call and migrate that particular VM from one ESXi host to another ESXi host, how it is going to migrate, what is the terminology, what is the technology it is going to use at the background. So that we are going to discuss. Okay. To make it enable these features, what is the primary requirements? Shared resource, shared storage, and the network connectivity. The same network connectivity should be available on both ESXi hosts. Network connectivity in the sense, the same switch port group should be available on both ESXi hosts, where the VM is connecting on a particular port group. What is the port group? Whatever the port group it is connected, that same port group should be available on another ESXi host. And the second component is storage. Storage, if the VM it is going to share the files, with the files only it is able to power on and it's going to execute all the actions are happening. That VM is nothing but VMX file, configuration file, and configuration file is going to have all the details. In addition to the configuration VMX file, there is another VMDK file. VMDK file is nothing but a virtual disk file. And these files are where they are going to store on a data store. That data store should be on a shared storage, shared centralized storage. The centralized storage can be provided from the NAS or SAN or ISKC. Whatever the technology you are going to use, it's up to the organization requirements. Only thing is that we need to use the centralized storage, and that centralized storage should be accessible by both ESXi hosts. For this purpose, for this particular storage, centralized storage purpose, what we did, we created a server. That server is nothing but, the server is ISKC target. We don't have in lab environment SAN storage. Okay, we don't have in the environment NAS. We can create a NAS filer and other things. But the easiest way is a ISKC target. ISKC target is a software provided by Microsoft. We can install ISKC target server on any Windows server wherever you have a free space on a server. We already install the ISKC target server, and session was created as a recorded session. If you want, you can watch that video, how to configure a ISKC target server. With that ISKC target server, how we are going to access the centralized storage or shared storage to this ESXi host. In each ESXi host, go to storage adapter, What I'm going to do is we already created a SCSI targets, SCSI target server. Now select each ESXi host. Now I'm going to configure storage, centralized storage, how to create centralized storage. Go to storage adapters. I'm going to create a iSCSI initiator. This adapter will be there on all the types. Okay. Click on add. Under storage adapter, click on add. Yes. See here, add software iSCSI adapter. This is Until this time, what are the adapters? What are the adapters available on the motherboard? Those adapters, storage related adapters, all the adapters will display under storage adapters. Now I'm going to add a new adapter. Okay, so that's the reason I'm adding add software SKC adapter. Click OK. Yes. What it is showing, a new software SKC adapter will be added to this storage adapter list. After it has been added, select that software SKC adapter on the list and click properties to complete the configuration. That's what we are going to do. Click OK, and it is going to add to the list SKC software adapter to this particular adapter list. That's what it is created. See, for everything there is a physical address. Okay, we know that for network card we call it as a MAC address, media access controller. For HBA card we discussed in storage concept, storage point requirements, HBA, host bus adapter for SAN requirement. That physical address, what is the HBA card physical address? WWN, worldwide number for HBA card. For ISKC adapter, it is IQUN. Okay, what is the physical address of ISKC software, ISKC adapter? It is IQN number. Now, we are going to configure this ISKC adapter. Click on properties. For this adapter, we are going to see, is there any targets are available. So what I'm going to do is network configuration, dynamic discovery. Click on dynamic discovery. Is there any, if the targets are available, I can click on add. I'm going to add dynamic discovery. It is going to discover on its own. Let's see what is the adapters. ISKC server. What is my ISKC server? We created a ISKC server, provided that IP address. Click OK. What is that port number? We should understand what is the port numbers. For each application, there will be a port number. Okay, for this ISKC adapter, ISKC communication, this is a port number. What is the port number? 3260. Okay, click OK. Okay, that's it. We done the configuration. Okay, click close. A rescan. We need to do rescan. We added a server. We do rescan. What are the adapters are available? It is going to list out. Click yes. See, the rescan is going to happen at the background. Or else if it is not rescan is happening, we can select the adapter and we can select the rescan all. There is a rescan all option is there. We can do that rescan as well. Is it completed? Let's wait. Let's wait. The C, it is come up. If you select the C, that come down. That bar is there, right? Come down. See, there is affected. Let me 1 second. See, as soon as you completed the rescan, what it is going to happen here, if you notice the targets, how many targets are available, we created 2 targets on ISKC target server. You can watch the session video, how many targets we created. We are going to add again how to create one more target. We'll see that. See here how many devices. There are 3 devices. How many paths are available? There are 3 paths are available. Okay, like that we can see once a rescan is done, what are the devices. If you come down here, you can increase that, you can list out the objects here. What are the devices are available? You can drop down here. The icon is there, right? You can drop down here and see what are the devices are listed over here. Okay, once this is done, take the control and come down and see here there is an arrow. Yeah,
It is
this
not
details
visible.
The details pan, move it up. And the properties are yes, that you can drag and move up. Yes. And see, there are 3 devices are available. What is the size of each device? One is 1 GB, another one is 10 GB, another one is 100 GB. These are the 3 devices I attached to this particular ESXi host. The similar way we are going to do on SKC lab 2 also, ESX2 also. Go to perform the same actions on ESX2. What we are doing, we don't have SAN environment. We created ISKC target, which is a free tool on Windows, Microsoft. So we deployed a Windows 2008 server, and the 2008 server, we added an additional disk that is 200 GB. Out of 200 GB, we created ISKC target servers. How did we perform all those things? You can watch and see. This is a shared storage purpose we are going to do. Click on add and proceed with adding the adapter. Why we are creating, we need a shared storage to configure the cluster, right? That's the reason we added this particular, okay? You should understand what is ISKC, physical address, IQN, okay? Select that adapter, configure, provide the server, ISKC server, select that adapter, ISKC adapter, go to properties, configure the server IP, ISKC server, we need to add ISKC server, okay? As we already configured the targets, that's the reason we are configuring this way. How to configure ISKC target server, you can watch that session video, okay? There are multiple videos are available on the internet. You can watch any video, doesn't matter. You can understand the topic, how to configure. For this lab environment, we created ISKC target server from which we are accessing this storage. See here, the same storage is available, different storage is available. What is a shared storage? What is a, if you see ESXi host 1, there are different storages available. There is 1 GB is available here, 2 GB is available. Remaining 2 disks are shared as a both shared disk for both the ESXi hosts. That is a shared disk. Now, how to create a data store? Okay, now storage devices are ready. Now we are going to create a data store by using this shared storage disk. Let's create a storage. We'll create a data store in next session. Its time is going to finish. Okay. Now open the target server, the whatever the RDP to the ISKC target server. We'll see how to configure a target server. This is a shared storage concept. And this cluster configuration, cluster features, and all those things, it may take 3 to 4 sessions to understand completely what are the requirements. We just completed storage requirement. Now there is another requirement to configure network requirement to perform migrations and other things. What is a network requirement? We will see in next session. Once the requirements are done, then we are good to go configure cluster settings. Expand the window and see the open ISKC target server. Open ISKC target. We install this ISKC target server. We are opening that console. See, these are the 3 disks we created. Devices, these many devices we created on this. Okay. How to targets? Click on targets. These are the targets we created. This is a kind of SAN allotment. In SAN storage, they call it as